Okay, the last question here is analyzing the graphs of functions to determine how they have been translated or possibly reflected. And to do that, all we really have to do is to determine where one particular point has been moved to. And that point is for exponential functions, the y-intercept, because that intercept for untransformed functions is always x is 0, y is 1. And for logarithmic functions, that point is the x-intercept, because for logarithmic functions, that x-intercept is always x equals 1 and y equals 0. So here's how we do this. First, in this first graph, we see that there is a horizontal asymptote at 3/2, or 1.5. So that is how far vertically the graph has been shifted or translated up. 1 unit above that, we should draw a horizontal line through 2.5. So 1.5 plus 1 is 2.5, or 3/2 plus 2/2 is 5/2. So we draw a line parallel to the horizontal asymptote through that, or at that level, and where that line intersects the graph is the point. That is where the y-intercept was translated to, shifted to, and so that point is 2 for an x value and 5/2 for the y value, and that means that it has been moved up 2, or rather up 1.5, and to the right 2. So to the right 2 is x minus 2, e to the x minus 2, and up 3/2 is plus 3/2 at the end of the function. You could also write 1.5, doesn't have to be in fraction form. Now for this one, we can see that it is an exponential because there is a horizontal asymptote, but it's been reflected down. Now when an exponential function is reflected down across the x-axis, that y-intercept becomes x is 0, y is negative 1. So when we find the point to which this has been translated, we will assess the movement on that basis. So we see that the horizontal asymptote is at -2, and then instead of drawing a line parallel to that above that asymptote, we draw it below. So we draw it below, and we see that that line would intersect the function at -3. So that means that from -1 to -3, the function has been shifted down 2 units, but since the x-coordinate of this point is 0, we see that it has not been shifted left or right. It's been reflected down, so that means we put a negative in front of e to the x, and it's been shifted or translated down 2 units, so we put a -2 at the end of the function. If you have a reflected function, don't forget to put the negative in front of the function. Okay, now here are some logarithmic functions, and you can see this first one has been reflected down. Logarithmic functions have vertical asymptotes, and so regardless of whether they have been reflected across the x-axis or not, we still draw a parallel vertical line 1 unit to the right of whatever the vertical asymptote is, the new vertical asymptote that is. And so the vertical asymptote is here at -2, so we draw a line 1 unit to the right, and we draw that line until and look for the spot where it intersects the function, and that spot is x is -1, y is -1. Well, as I said previously, the x-intercept of an untransformed logarithmic function is x is 1, y is 0. So we can see that this point has been shifted down 1, left 2. It's been shifted left 2 and down 1. So left 2 is x plus 2, so it's natural log of x plus 2, and down 1 means that we put a negative 1 at the end outside the function, and once again, don't forget to put your negative in front of the function. And finally, here we have a logarithmic function, a natural logarithmic function that has not been reflected, but our vertical asymptote is at 1, so we draw a line parallel to that asymptote to the right of that 1 unit, and so that'll pass through positive 2, and we draw that line, vertical line, parallel to the asymptote, and see where the graph intersects that, and it's at 3. So that tells us that this x-intercept has been shifted or translated 1 unit to the right and 3 units up. Well, inside the function, in the argument of the function, 1 unit to the right is x minus 1. Remember, it's opposite sign. And outside the function is same sign, so this is up 3, so we put a plus 3 outside the function. Okay, that's everything. That's the last question. And once again, if you have questions for me, you can text me at 210-464-5781, or you can email me. You can also call me, but I'm unlikely to answer. You can email me through the school website. All right, there they are, all your videos. Good luck.